So one of the first things that I like to open Does It Pencil with is to say, investors all share a similar aspiration, and that aspiration is to be happy. Okay? We want to get to the end and feel like we've made a good decision. Okay? So investing, I think, is most easily thought of as a journey. And it's a journey that starts at a place called from, F-R-O-M, and it ends at a place called to, T-O. We're going from and then to. Okay? And we hope when we're standing here at from, then we get to to, it'll be a whole lot better than where I was at from, or else why would I do this? Okay? That's pretty simple. So the question really is this. I'm standing at from, this part at this beginning of the journey, and going, well, what should I do? If I have some money on my journey, on my investment, I want to have more when I get to the end at the place called to. Well, that's pretty obvious. So the main question is this. What do I do? We'll get to that in a minute. But here's another question. How will I know when I've gotten there? Okay? That's a really, really, really important question, especially if your job is assisting somebody else on their journey. If you're going to be a form of mentor, if you will. Okay? And you are a form of mentor. We are in the business of helping people make decisions. That's what we're doing here. And we're trying to help clients and ourselves make the best decisions. And it's very important that we start at this part of the conversation. What are we trying to do? We're trying to make the right decision. Why do you want to make the right decision? So that when I get to the end, the fruit of my decision, if you will, that I'm happy. Makes sense to me. Okay, well, then how will you know if you're happy? There's one way you'll know it. And here's the way. That's the only way. It's if what you get meets or exceeds your expectations. And that's it. I've done a lot of research on this, believe it or not. The psychology of investing, psychology of negotiation, what makes people happy, therapy, all the stuff, right? It all comes down to this one word. What are people's expectations? So what that means to you as a broker, advisor, mentor, investor, the first thing that you need to understand is what are my client's expectations and what are my expectations? Okay, and I'm going to borrow from something we're going to do here a little bit later, actually tomorrow, called cap rate. Okay, everybody's heard of cap rate. I'll show it to you in a way you've never seen it before. But a lot of people run around going cap rate, cap rate, cap rate. Okay, fine. If the market is, we'll say, a 5 cap rate, and someone successfully buys something at, we'll say, an 8 cap rate, they're going to be happy. Because what that translates to is, I bought it for less than what the market is. Therefore, I got a good deal. Therefore, I'm happy. So the easiest way to understand expectations is to quantify them. It's also not so easy for a lot of people to do that for a variety of reasons, okay? One of those reasons is a lot of people don't really understand how people make decisions. Okay, again, this is science. Every person on this call, every person in this class, every person you'll ever meet, every one of you, and me too, we all make decisions the same way. And it's a 2-step process, and it works like this. We make decisions emotionally, and we justify them rationally. That's how we all make decisions. I mean, you guys that sell primary residences, you know this better than me. Curb appeal matters. You want them to fall in love. That's the whole trick. Then they fall in love and they go, I want it. Make it happen. How can I have this? I must have this. Well, that's not ration. That's emotion. The ration part justifies the emotion part. And that's how it works. That's how it works for all of us. But it all starts with expectations. And expectations are much easier to understand if we can, in fact, quantify them. Okay? So I'm going to give you a couple of bits and pieces, just some guardrails or benchmarks or whatever you want to call them. Okay? So here's the first one. The first one is 3.6 equals 0. And you're looking at me going, well, what the hell does that mean? Here's what it means. Right now, I can take $1, walk out that door onto the street, go into any investment house, and I can earn at a minimum in a money market fund about 3.6, 3.7, somewhere in there. Okay? I can make that money for doing nothing. I have no risk. I have no broken toilets, no bitchy tenants, no late rent, no market volatility. I got nothing. I'm just 3.6 all day long. Okay? So I call that 0. If I'm not earning at least 3.6, then why am I doing this? Okay? I mean, that makes sense, hopefully. Second benchmark. This year so far, the S&P 500 has made about 16%, roughly. Okay? Now, it's been a pretty good year for the market. A lot of people know that. Okay? But here's what a lot of people don't know. Compounded year over year since 2008, the S&P has returned on an annualized basis with dividends reinvested just about 13% per year. That's pretty good. That's the ups and the downs. And I picked 2008 as a starting point. Okay? Now let's just pause there for a second. You guys didn't show up for a stock investing class. You showed up because you're in the real estate business, 100%. But what you need to understand about investing and investors is that investors have options. Okay? They don't have to take their $100,000 and buy your crummy house in Kent or whatever it is. They've got plenty of other people banging on their door, go, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. Okay? Did you know that this year, and I didn't look this up this morning, but pretty close. Gold this year has made, I think, about 30%. Roughly. Okay? That's just this year. Now, later, you'll get my sermon on what I call the criminals at the Fed. We'll get to that. Okay? But for right, yeah, Garrett's like, yeah, you go get them, man. But for now, gold's been a really great investment because the dollar is being debased. Okay? I'll talk a little bit about that later. Okay? But check this out, okay? 3 simple benchmarks. I can do nothing and I can earn 3.6. I can go into the stock market and buy the simplest, easiest, dumbest, no-load mutual fund called an EFT and make about 16%. And if I would have bought gold, I'd be about 30. And if I would have bought the right mining stocks, I'd be at close to 100% so far this year, doubling my money. Okay? Those are alternatives. And my argument as an investor, and that's mostly what I live off now is my investments. I'm at that age of my life. Is that, well, 2 things. One is I think diversification is important. We've all heard that before. But this is a key concept. Number 1, to understand what it is you're looking at. That's first. Number 2, what it can do for you. I'll get to that in a minute. And number 3, how does this thing that you're trying to sell me stand up against other options that I could have? And again, I say, we all want to be happy. We all do. And there's only one way any of us can ever be happy, and that's if our expectations are met or exceeded. And every time we invest, we go on a journey. We start at a place called from, we end at a place called to. Value is measured at the place called to. We measure value at the end. We don't measure it at the beginning. We measure it at the end. The question is, at the beginning, what should I do? So in Does It Pencil, you're going to learn thought processes, skill sets, calculations, modalities, tools, whatever euphemism you want to use, to be able to sit here at the beginning at the place called from and go, well, if I take a set of assumptions and plug it in, is this going to conform with what my expectations are? And when I get to the end, will I be happy? Okay, now, that's a lot, what I just said, and I know that. But it's really the first thing that I can share with you after doing this for 35 years. We'll get to the calculator. Don't worry about that. But this is the foundation, okay? At least for now, we'll see what AI does. But for now, we're dealing with people, okay? And we cannot forget that. And every investor has one aspiration, and that is to be happy. And your job is to help them get there, okay? And to avoid being unhappy, equally as important. Okay. The next thing that I want to talk about with you is what I call the only three things that any investment in anything can ever do for you. Now, a little bit of background, just so you know who I am, okay? I'm older than 21, believe it or not. In fact, I was at the gym last week. This is kind of funny. And I was in the locker room, and there was just me and this one kid, and we started talking. I walk in, he's in the mirror going, all like this, and doing this little boy thing. And we were talking. He's 16. He was cute. And he asked me how old I was. He's like, no way. I go, yeah, man, I really am. He's like, oh, okay. So anyway, I'm 63. And I've been doing this since 1987 or 88, something like that. So I've been doing this for about 35 years, right? I've been all over the country, probably 5 times, over 50,000 alumni, went to college, to graduate school, I'm a CCIM. I've done a lot of stuff, okay? So I've been around this for a long time, and I've been to the class and took the test and read the book and got the t-shirt and all the tra-la-las. And what I have learned at the end of everything that I've done is there's only 3 things you have to know, believe it or not, 3. Now, things in life sort of fall into 2 boxes, okay? This is a simple euphemism. It's what I call your shoulds and your musts, okay? We always do our musts. We never do our shoulds, okay? That's just human nature. And I'm not here to be Tony Robbins. I'm just telling you this is a simple way just to look at all of us as a species, okay? And the reason I say that is because these 3 things I'm going to tell you if you're going to be an investor or work with investors, these are musts. You must know how to do these things, all right? And the first thing that you must know how to do, and I've mentioned this already once, is called time value of money, which abbreviates with the 3 letters TVM, okay? This is a critical skill set to understand if you're going to be an investor or work with investors. You cannot do time value of money in your head. I mean, I say that. There's probably somebody who can, but I've never met them. So you have to have a financial calculator or a spreadsheet or a computer program or something like that. That'll be the first number crunchy thing that we do here, okay? But you must know how to do time value of money. The second thing you must know how to do is how to measure the cash flow of an investment. Okay, now this is critical if you're working in small real estate properties, because right now most of these negative cash flow, not all of them, but little ones, most of them do. Okay, we'll talk about that later. So a couple things you have to understand under the banner of cash flow. One of them is called an APOD. Okay, now this is an abbreviation, annual property operating data. We'll get to that. There's a whole section of the book on it. But you have to understand how to do one of these. The other thing you have to understand is a metric called cash on cash. Okay? This measures the rate of return on your equity investment. Okay? Now, let me just draw a hard line right now, because this is super important and people get this wrong all the time. Appreciation is not cash flow, and cash flow is not appreciation. They are 2 distinctly separate things, and they are distinctly separate objectives for investors. That's a big thing I just said. Most people's thinking is very muddled about this. I'm here to unmuddle your thinking. Clarity of thought is probably the one thing that will help you more than anything else to define your objectives. Because if you don't have your objectives defined, you'll never be happy. I've been doing this for a long time. I've seen a lot of people do this the right way and the wrong way. Okay, so appreciation is not cash flow. Cash flow is not appreciation. Now, when we measure time value of money, this is the appreciation thing. Okay, this is ROI. That's what time value of money is. It's ROI. Cash flow is measuring equity investment, and this is what's called ROE, return on equity. I'll show you this more later, but I just want to make these notes right now because these are very differentiating features about these two metrics and the drastic difference in what they measure. Okay, now I said there were three things. So we have time value of money, we have cash flow, and here's the third one. The third one is called the combination. And the combination is, in fact, the combination of the appreciation and the cash flow. And this combination thing we measure using an indice called internal rate of return, which abbreviates as IRR. This is the last big lift that we will do tomorrow, okay? I'll just give you full disclosure right now. I love IRR. I always have. Once I learned about it, I said, okay, now I get it. And what's weird is that in the marketplace, you sort of hear about IRR, but not hardly anybody uses it. And I will prove tomorrow why it is the most valuable indice of all the indices to be able to understand the true rate of return of any investment you'll ever make in anything. Okay? I mean, again, full disclosure, I'm a big fan of IRR. All right. So these three things, appreciation, cash flow, and the combination of the two, those are the three things that you must know how to do. And that's it. Now, taxes is another thing that's a separate course. I'll talk about that later. But in the pre-tax realm, that's the three things that you need. If you understand these three things, and I swear to God, this is true, this is all you ever need to know for the rest of your life to make any decision about anything. I don't care what it is. Piece of land, rental house, duplex, office building, stock, annuity, stick of gold bond, 67 Camaro, collector car. I don't care what it is. You understand those three things, you can make a decision about anything. It's the foundation of Desert Pencil. And I bring this to you after my 35 years of doing this and all the different stuff that I've done. I have a pretty unique resume. And one day I was doing this, in fact, I was teaching in Utah, I think it was. I went, oh my God, this is really the thing right here. This is all it is. And that's when the whole conversation changed. So you can thank Utah for that. Okay. Last part of what I call the opening salvo. The 5 benefits. Okay? Now let me compare and contrast 2 words. The words are feature and benefit. Okay? Feature and benefit. The feature is the what's in it. Excuse me. The feature is, sorry, my phone keeps going off here. I'm turning down my volume. The feature is, stop it, the what it is. The benefit is the what's in it for me. Now you need both, especially if you're in a conversation with someone, but they are also distinctly different things. Examples. Excuse me. This is just annoying the hell out of me. Okay. Phones, like the best and the worst things ever invented. Okay. So a feature would be freeway off-ramp location. Benefit is 80,000 cars a day see my sign. Or another benefit is easy access to major commuting arterials. Feature is air conditioning. Benefit is keeps you cool in the summer. Feature is the best school district in our community. The benefit is my kids get a great education. Okay, so feature, benefit, feature, benefit, feature, benefit. When someone is buying something, most often the salesperson is talking about the features and the buyer is listening for the benefits that are never told to them. Now, I'm not saying that's always, but it's most of the time. And I've been involved in sales training, negotiation, persuasion for a long time. I have a lot of experience around this. I've trained thousands of salespeople. It's always the same thing. They go, feature, 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 feature. Are you in? And they're like, well, why do I care about all this? It doesn't mean anything to me. So you got to have the benefit part too, right? So what I'm going to share with you next are what I call the 5 benefits, one for each finger so you can remember them, of investing in real estate as an investment. And I've already talked about a couple of them, okay? The couple I've talked about are appreciation. You can fill these in the blank in your book. And cash flow. These are both benefits. They're not the same thing, but they're both good, and they have different importance to different investors, depending on where that investor is and what I call their life stage, which I'll get to later in our discussion. Okay, here's another benefit: mortgage reduction. And the best litmus test for mortgage reduction is if you can measure the rate of return on investment 2 ways. One, as if the mortgage was never reduced. And secondly, with the mortgage reduced, all things being equal. Now we are losing, I've read, about 10% of these 3% mortgages during the COVID time per year. Okay, so that means it's going to take about 10 years to wash all that money out of the market system. Okay, another governmental manipulation by, again, I say, the criminals at the Fed. I'll get to that later. But mortgage reduction is a great benefit of owning real property. So the way that you structure your debt is a super important part of the way you buy. And of course, all debt questions are really answered by how long are you going to own the property? Okay, that's always the question that's attached to the debt structure. Okay, another benefit is leverage. Now let me just take a little sidebar here and talk about this word for just a minute, okay? Everybody here today, everybody who's not here today, all of us in our lifetimes will make 2 kinds of money. And again, they are distinctly separate, and we need to think about them that way. The 2 kinds of money are our income and our wealth. Okay, they're not the same. So income is what you make every day from going to your job, obviously, right? You go sell a house, you go pump gas, I mean, whatever your thing is, okay? And you got to have money to survive in a capitalist society. You got to, have a roof and place to live and some food to eat and, take your kids to the doctor. I mean, all that stuff requires income. That's super important, okay? But at the same time you're going along, hopefully you're also increasing your wealth. Okay? Now, I started working when I was 11. I still work. I work now more than I ever have. Ironically, I don't have to work anymore. Why? Because I have gathered enough stuff in my life that pays me that I don't have to go to work to get money anymore. But ironically, I work now more than I ever have. So go figure that one out, all right? But the point is this. Everyone here should have an aspiration in their own lives in their own way to get to a point in life where we've accumulated enough stuff so we get up every day and go do whatever we do. We're not trading our time, trading our human energy for money for our survival. Okay? When you start out, you have to, unless you inherit it. But as you go along, this creating wealth thing, it's super important for all of us, for a variety of reasons. Okay? But here's the trick, and the catch-22, if you will. If you don't have leverage, you won't create wealth. Period. It's just not a negotiable. I have very close friends who are attorneys. They make $300 or $400 an hour. They have nothing to their name except for their house, and that's it. They have no wealth. Why? Because they spent their entire lives working for a one-to-one return. I mean, look what we're doing right now. You guys all paid. You know what it costs. I'd be doing the same output from my end if there was one of you or 10,000 of you. It's leverage. It's all leverage. Okay? Leverage is the key to wealth. And in real estate, it's baked into the recipe. Oh, you're going to borrow money, and that's great. And when you measure appreciation, the more leverage you have, the greater your ROI. I'll show you how that works a little bit later. Okay, but this foundational concept about leverage, I want everybody to really, this is a very important takeaway, not just from investing in real estate and all that kind of stuff, but just from your life. Now, if you've never done the simple math, here's how it works. This used to be a lot different than it is now. But if you want to make $100,000 a year, and that used to actually mean something not too terribly long ago, like back when I was Haley's age, like 50 years ago. But anyway, and there were 2,000 working hours in a year, you had to make $50 an hour to make $100,000. Oh, that's simple. We don't understand that. Okay, but that brings us to a very interesting question about how each one of us is managing ourselves. If you're doing work that's less than $50 an hour, you're losing. And if you can hire that work for, whatever it is now, 10, 20 bucks an hour, well, then you're making 30 on the spread. That's called arbitrage. And you want that. That's leverage. Okay, so this notion of leverage doesn't just apply to investments, and it applies to time as well. Okay, and as we get deeper into the Does It Pencil conversation, I will start quantifying for you not just the relation, but the correlation between time and money. It's very important, and you don't want to run out of money before you run out of time, right? Cash flow, appreciation, mortgage reduction, leverage, and here's the last one. Taxes. All right? I will talk tomorrow about Does It Pencil Course 3. That's available in online space. I'll give you guys a deal on it if you want to take it. Course 3 is the tax course. There are specific, measurable benefits to investors of investing in real estate or even in REITs, real estate investment trusts, that are not available to non-investors. Okay? These are, again, specific, tangible, measurable tax benefits. Because here's the thing about investing. It's not what you make that matters. It's what you get to keep that counts. If you've ever been in your life where you've written a fairly large check to federal and or state governments, and I've done both, it doesn't make you happy. Okay, you might say it does, but when it's your money, it's funny how that changes. And I have never and will never advocate for two things. One is that people should never pay taxes because that's ridiculous. We live in a society, we all share in certain things, and you got to pay your share. We all do. Okay, I'm a firm believer in that. But here's the other thing I'm a firm believer in. You shouldn't have to pay more than you're supposed to. Okay? And I've studied the tax code quite a bit. And one of the things you learn about the tax code is that it's not designed to be advantageous to people that get up every day and go to work for somebody else, like on a W-2 salary. It's just not. That's not a partisan comment. It's just a fact. If you don't believe me, go read the code. You'll see very quickly. Okay? It's designed to incentivize the private sector to invest in the public sector. And one of the key investments that it focuses on is real estate for that purpose. And it's no big secret right now. There's a housing shortage, people. And there's tax benefits at many levels for people in the private sector to take their capital invested in housing for the public. Okay? This is governmental intervention. It's how it works. So if you're an investor and you care about your tax thing, real estate it can be a very advantageous investment. I have a couple very dear friends who are developers. They are gazillionaires. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of exaggeration, but you get it. And they pay very little in taxes. And it's not because they have the best CPAs. It's not because they're hiding under their pillows. It's because they follow the rules. Anybody can play. It's just a question of whether you choose to play or not. Okay. Now, you may disagree with that comment. If you do, I respect that. But I want you to understand that I'm not a victim person. Okay. And I'm not someone who says, oh, well, you know, the guy with the big lawyer and the big CPA, he's the guy that gets. No, that is complete bull. We all have access to the same information, and it's right here. It's just a question of whether you know enough to ask the question, and that's a part of what Does It Pencil Course 3 gives you, is these things exist. Now take this information and see how it applies to your specific situation or your client's situation. Okay, that's one of the biggest benefits that I can offer my audiences is just to let them know that certain things exist because most people don't even know. They don't know. Believe me, I've been in this conversation for a long time. Okay, so these 5 words are super important. Well, 6 words, but 5 concepts. And these are the things that you need to start thinking about as you're wandering around the world looking at different opportunities, okay? How much could this property potentially appreciate? Honestly. Is there any cash flow here? What's the debt structure? How does my return get affected if I borrow money or if I pay all cash? And finally, are there tax benefits? Okay, these are the things that investors, I don't know why my camera's blinking there, sorry about that. These are the things that investors think about. These are the things that you need to be thinking about, okay? Most of you, because most people that come to Does It Pencil, come to this conversation mostly having a background selling primary residences, and that's great. That's a very vital function in the marketplace. But this is different, okay? This is not about feng shui, primary residence, all that kind of stuff. It is about emotion because people are still people and people still make decisions the way people make decisions. But it's looking at the same thing in different ways. That's the magic. That's the magic. Instead of looking at we'll choose a primary house as an example, and saying, oh, this would be a wonderful place to live and raise kids, now you're looking at it and going, well, how much rent per foot can I get out of this thing? And if I add an addition, you know, what's my cost of construction versus my final value? And is it smarter for me to buy and hold or fix and flip? See, those are the conversations we have when we put on the so-called investor hat. And that's what we're here to do. We're going to be investors. That's what Does It Pencil is about.